under Australia's most expensive defence agreement, Australia is set to purchase 3 to 5 Virginia-class nuclear-powered submarines from the US in the 2030s. Then by the 2050s, Australia and the UK will develop a new nuclear submarine. According to Australian officials, 50 to 80 US Navy personnel will arrive over the next few months to Western Australia's HMAS Stirling base, which is undergoing a $5 billion upgrade to prepare for the nuclear-powered submarines. By 2027, those numbers will expand to hundreds of US Navy personnel and support crew. Let's listen again to Elbridge Colby's confirmation hearing.
I think we should be putting the military capabilities, especially that are relevant in the priority area, ships, submarines, missile defense assets, have to be focused on deterring a conflict over Taiwan. And if, God forbid, it happens, giving our soldiers and sailors and airmen and defenders and Marines the best shot.
So, Chenlung, it's never been explicit, but has AUKUS always been about, enabling Australia against China in support of the US and therefore in support of the US in the Taiwan crisis?
That's not been openly said, but it's always the main concern for Australia, extended deterrence, because if it's traditional power submarine, once they reach the sea around Taiwan Island, it would be like there's only less than a week for them to operate. If it's a nuclear power, it can operate indefinitely over there. So that is one of the main concerns for replacing the old Collins class with the nuclear power attack submarine.
And Professor Hu, how do we assess into the mix Colby's comments? I mean, you seem to be thinking that it won't actually have an impact. You said that AUKUS will continue, is that correct? So you believe that the US will deliver the nuclear power, the Virginia-class submarines in the 2030s? Okay, maybe I should address this to Chenlung then. So my question is, what has changed, Chenlung? Have the facts on the ground changed? Why is Colby saying this now when, in such an extensive, expensive deal, they would have done the forecasts and the calculations?
I think they have changed on both sides of the calculation. On the Australian side, they don't have enough confidence in the current Trump administration as before in the Biden years. Just like every country nowadays, the European countries have no confidence in Trump's security commitment. So is Asian countries. That is including Australia. And I think also from the American side, they are finding their shipbuilding capability have been greatly downgraded over the years.
But that hasn't just happened in the last year, has it?
It happened dramatically during the COVID period. And that is not put into calculation when they first started the AUKUS deal. And now we are seeing there's a lot of subcontracting to the Japanese or the Korean shipbuilding company. But still, manufacturing a nuclear power submarine, that's a different thing. And now I think the speed of building a nuclear submarine had been slowed down to about half of the speed like before. So now the US is short of its own nuclear fleet right now. It's about a quarter of short. So they have to make up the differences. That's the reason why Colby is saying that maybe we cannot find a way to provide you, Australia, with the promised nuclear attack submarine as before.
So, Professor Hu, I want you to respond to those comments. So that calculation, the shipbuilding decline on the US side, was not factored in. Should it not be factored in now? Or do you disagree?
Well, I think the US still needs Australia to maintain a very strong presence in the Indo-Pacific. So Stirling Naval Base actually is closer to South China Sea, Pacific Ocean, and Taiwan. It's closer than Guam, for example. So why Australia willing to cancel a deal with France over their conventional submarine capability for a nuclear attack submarine is because nuclear submarine can stay longer, almost indefinitely under the water. It also have that stealth capability, of which I think China is very wary about. So,
but if there is a choice, which is how Chenlung put it, and also Colby puts it, isn't the choice to arm the US Navy rather than the Australian Navy?
I've read about how within Australia, when they were considering which nuclear propelled submarine they should go for, Japan was pop up as one of the options, but yet they did not go for it because the technology is not yet mature. Japan never export that technology to any other countries for their own use, and there is also a controversy about nuclear use in Japan as well, and in Australia actually. So the fact that they forego France, the cooperation with France, and went ahead with AUKUS is actually a very critical and crucial decision for Australia.
It was also a different Prime Minister, though, rather than being the same Prime Minister.
Yes, and we expect that the current Prime Minister would actually probably cancel the deal, but he did not, and he actually went ahead with the deal.
Chenlung, if I could come back to Taiwan, so I wanted to get your understanding in Taiwan. So given all the lack of clarity over Trump's intentions with Taiwan's security that we in Taiwan have been feeling, what has been the impact of Colby's remarks about Taiwan defense?
One of the shock Colby's talk during the Congress hearing is that he said that Taiwan should raise its defense expenditure to 10% of GDP. Like he said about Australia, saying that Australia should keep up with the NATO standard, which is 3% of GDP. Now Australia is barely over 2%.
Which Taiwan is at.
Right. Now Australia only barely over 2%. So this is something that is quite a tremendous shock for Taiwan.
Right, but what I'm actually referring to is that he is talking about the US helping in Taiwan's defense.
Right.
Does that not change the dial slightly? Before his comments, there was no talk about this actually happening or the planning of it from Trump officials.
Mr. Colby is one of the officials that we call it among different factions within the Trump administration. It's called prioritizers, meaning that this group of people want to focus on Taiwan and Asia defense more than what's happening in Europe. They want to concentrate the resources back in Indo-Pacific areas. I think Colby had elaborated very clearly during his hearing confirmations about how the neighboring countries should collaborate together to come to Taiwan defense if something happened.
So you don't think that with his position, a future position, coupled with, what we know to be Hegseth's position, Mike Waltz's position, so this doesn't change anything for Taiwanese?
But it's still up to the president who make the final decisions. We are still looking at what kind of so-called deal that President Trump is going to make in the future summit between the U.S. president and the Chinese president. And that is a political decision that would transcend or even outwin the military calculation.
Absolutely. And also, as you pointed out, Colby talked about Taiwan coming to the table with 10% of GDP on defense spending.